Guys, welcome back. This is Eric here with Guitarsenal, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit out of the ordinary. I've got a special guest here with me today, Big John. You guys probably know him from other parts on the internet, just like you probably know me from other areas on the internet. How's it going, dude?
Good, man. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming down. You know,
no problem.
We've got the new guitar channel now. We've been, putting out a lot of content, and I've always known that Big John is a bit of a guitarist, likes to play, and we posed a good question that maybe we want to try to answer in this video is, how do we take playing to the next level? You know, you've been playing around on a guitar for a long time. You've learned a few little riffs. You've learned some, in your case, you've learned some alternate tunings that are really cool. You know, how do we take that to the next level? How do we develop a bit of a regimen for improving? And how do we know when we're improving? Look, I'm not claiming to be an expert, no more than the next guy. I know John's certainly a humble dude. He gets it. You know, he's somewhat a beginner when it comes to kind of learning his way around the fretboard and all. So how can I help him? I'm a blues and jazz kind of guy. He's a metal-inspired sort of guy. Our playing styles are very different. So what this is going to be is an exercise in the language of music, and not necessarily that, it can all really transcend various styles. So, John knows a thing or two here, but he also needs to know some scales and needs to work on some technique things. So we're going to try to develop a bit of a regimen for you that will help you when you're at home practicing.
Right.
And then we're going to go over some things that you might be having trouble with. And look, this video, we're not trying to bash anybody here. All we're trying to do is help John out and figure out what we can do to help him. And from my perspective, I used to teach guitar. It's been a long time since I've taught, but I'm going to try to go about this methodically, just as a teacher would with John here, so that we can figure out how to help him maximize his time behind the guitar to make sure it's giving him what he wants. So you like the heavy styles of music.
Right.
You like the drop tunings and things, which is fun. And you're playing through a 120 watt Koch over there, so it's got some chug, right?
Yeah.
So
and I feel like what you were just saying a minute ago, I feel like I've sort of taken my guitar playing as far as I can take it without learning any actual technique. So I'm kind of to that point where I've jammed a lot in my room, messed around, not putting any pressure on it. But I'm to the point now where it's like, I really want to enjoy this more. I want to actually learn scales and technique and some things like that. So
yeah. Scales are, basically the way that we navigate the fretboard to have a musical idea. So like if a chord is a book, well then scales are word and pages of the book. Okay, so if I take a chord and just as for instance a G, there's going to be certain things I can play over that G, whether depending on the tonality that I want. And the way that these scales are, I know we talked about this briefly a little bit, and like one of the really funny things that you can use to demonstrate this to people, at least from my perspective, is like we talked about those intro bass notes in the Game of Thrones intro.
Yeah.
So when you're hearing, just for instance, this is giving you a really good idea. This starts to allow you to learn how those scales really make the music sound different. So you take the Game of Thrones bass notes, all right, and this is just an example, okay? If I'm going, it goes between minor and major. So if you listen to that, you can hear it, like. But see, it's instantly recognizable. You hear the difference between those two things. Mm-hmm. You hear when it makes that change, but it's going from C minor to C major. So major and minors aside, as a metal guy, you're probably going to be focusing mostly on pentatonics.
Right.
Pentatonic scales are really cool because pentatonics don't necessarily have to really follow a major or minor tonality quite so much. They can be used for a wide variety of different things. And when you're getting passing tones or catching those major or minor thirds in a scale to kind of change the tonality to where, if I, for instance, and this is just an example, I'm just going to use the G position as an example. Pentatonics are really boxy, and that's why metal guys can really fly with pentatonics, because they get the economy of their hand motion down really well, and they get that muscle memory just working for them. So kind of the difference between, like if I go, all right, that's pentatonics. There are a few, half in there, but it doesn't have to be. It can also be. All right, once you understand that, then when you start working, and I know this is kind of going beyond what I'm going to try to show you, but I'm trying to make sure you understand the difference. I can take that same position, all right? I've not moved my finger. My index finger is staying exactly where it is. I can also go, all right, that's minor, or I can make a minor shift and I can go. All right, so here's the difference between those scales. If I play a major, like those intervals are very, very distinct.
Right.
You know, if I play a minor, I'm defining the way that scale sounds by the thirds, whether they're sharp or flat. A major chord uses what they call a raised third, which would be just a major third. If I flatten that, it becomes a minor. And that's the only real difference. Pentatonics rest kind of somewhere in between. Okay. There's various positions all over the neck where you can play your pentatonic. So in your case, your guitar is tuned down to low C, correct?
Drop C, right.
So drop C. So the remaining strings are down one full step, and then your low C is all the way down to C. So it's basically an altered tuning, which allows you to get these really deep and dark sounds.
Right, you can make easier bar chords, power chords.
Okay, so show me the way that you would riff in C. If you were just kind of playing around, just demonstrate for me. Turn towards me just a little bit. Okay, good.
And I just kind of move around. I understand, you know, I'll just sort of pick a box, but I don't understand all the different letters I'm supposed to hit.
But you do understand the concept of the box, like kind of having those notes there. And you're hearing, like, do that again where you're in C. Right, so see, those are pentatonics. See, you bent that note down, you're correct. That note is tending to want to, because you're probably learning a lot of this stuff by ear and you're listening and just sort of playing around with those box shapes. Your ear is wanting to, you're forcing that note to want to go there, even though you may not know where the next position is. So there's a couple of ways that you can tackle this position. Now, I am in standard tuning, so the notes are going to be different what I'm playing because I'm in standard tuning, but when you play, it's going to be okay for you. But I'm going to show you the fingerings in standard tuning, but they're going to be a step lower when you play them. All right, but that's all right. I'm just showing you. And I know, guys at home, I hope you can understand, like, I know I'm playing different notes, but because he's tuned down, probably should have gotten the same tuning, but I really don't have a guitar here that I would set up that way. Yeah. But I'm just going to show you. So your C, which in your case is here instead of here, okay? So go ahead and you want to, you know, for your pentatonics, there's a couple of ways that you can do it. Now, guys, remember, these notes are going to be different, but just to show. All right, you know what? I can play it in this position because these things do transpose. The beauty of pentatonics is that if you understand the root note that the scale is in, it's transposable. For instance, remember how earlier when I was doing that G? That's real robotic sounding, but it's just a scale. A scale is a musical form. Well, I know that this root note is G. So once you learn the notes on the neck and you know that, all right, this is the key I'm in, like that's a C, well then you know that as long as you know the C position and the scales associated with it, that's why when I heard your low C, I could go up here to the C position, which would be here, and I could... Right, it's just a scale.
So it's like the root note is like your reference point.
The reference point, exactly. So since I know that C is the key that I'm in, and you're riffing in C, you can chug along in C, and I can jam with it. And because I know that my C root note is down here as well, and I know the scales that go along with that. So the different positions and where the root notes start is the real challenge. And because you're playing in that register so much, we'll go over this pattern because that's probably where you're going to do a lot of your riffing to start out down there in that position. So what you'll want to do is you want to go, if you want to move that position, or if you want to keep, the best way to think about it, pretend that I'm creating a quadrant right here. Okay. All the notes where these frets are at are what these strings are to an extent going to grab. And the reason that we're doing that is so that we have economical hand movements. Right? That's why it doesn't make sense to go, wait, like, okay, say if I went, right?
Yeah, it's too awkward.
See, why would I do that? You want your fingers to naturally go to a position. So the way that I would do that in C, and bear in mind guys, the notes I'm playing are different, but they'll sound right to him, is if I want to go, so see that's going to be a weird stretch in that position because you've got to reach a step and a half back from the box. So it's not quite a box position. That's a hard one. That's a difficult position, going from that D root note. Lots of people, instead of going, they'll go, myself included, I'll go, they're still weird because there's some 1.5 step intervals and there's some full step intervals. That's why these positions in pentatonics get known as a box type position.
Right.
So let's work on that.
Okay.
Let's get you.
So this is a C right here.
That's a C. In your case, it's a C. On my guitar, it's a D. But we're gonna go at. I'm just showing you, and I could even honestly turn my guitar all the way down. And just show you. See, so you know, C. Right. Yeah.
That's right. So good.
Right. But see what you want to do. You want to get that ring finger working. So go ba 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 da. So you want to reach right.
Or is it like that? Is that what you play?
Right. You don't have to, but I'm just saying. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up. See.
Something like that, right?
Right. If you want to keep it all within that position. So see, like I did, if I'm going, it's just weird because you have to make a distinctive sort of effort to understand, like kind of, you have to learn the physical scale in order to do that.
Okay.
You can switch positions. So like, see, the kind of player you are, right now, you're used to that kind of box shape, and you're not used to thinking, okay, I have to like physically sort of just make a conscious effort to reach for this given note. The way you can approach that is instead go, right?
Yeah.
So if you slide that note in with your pinky, now guess what? You're still in that position again to just go. So that's a good thing to practice, just so you're going from the root note up to at least the minimum the next octave.
Right.
So see, these are both, in your case, C's. You're just arriving to the same place again up at the higher register. So try that. Try that.
Which note?
Right. Do this. Listen.
That's what you're doing?
Listen. You see, you're already there.
Yeah.
You're already there. Don't overthink it. Look. Just do that. Right. Good. Eventually, when you're getting over to the B and A strings, you're going to have to make some deliberate change of your hand position in order to get the correct note.
Yeah.
So see, pentatonics don't necessarily always, depending on the position, translate to just as simple as a box. The box is always going to have some form of 1.5 step interval in the scale somewhere on the string.
So is it kind of like a two-step process of where you learn the scale, you understand the positions, and then kind of naturally you figure out easier ways to play it as far as the
you do.
You
can kind of find what works for you, and you can also find what sounds good with certain types of music. And I would recommend, like, if you have a looper pedal or something, you know, like if you wanted to, for instance, I'll just demonstrate here, and I'll just show you what I'm talking about. All right, I'm going to play this in C just for demonstrative purposes because you're in C. But I've got a looper pedal down here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take something sort of riffy sounding, like a, I don't know, like a, I don't turn this down a little bit. So if I want to play something over the top of that, I'll just show you the scales. So I can go. So we're using that in the same position that we're in. We're not changing anything. All I'm doing is adding a little bit of nuance to it.
Yeah.
Okay? But play the scale over it. Just get used to playing the scale over the music. So if I want to go, you know. See, I can't help it. I sort of get, you know. But so, that's what you're really going for.
Yeah.
There, you know? So just play it.
So this root note C right here. So anywhere on the neck that I find C, it's the same position. Right. So anywhere that I find C, is it that same position?
Right. So you're here. You're in C.
Right.
Here you go. Right here. All the way back to this position. If you're gonna start with that finger, so C. There you go. Well, see, now you're in D.
Oh, it's D?
Yeah, go back down to this position. That's your root note. This is a C that's droning you.
Okay.
This is a C.
Right.
So look, you want to hammer on to the C. So go back to this position.
Oh, I got
there you go. Yeah. Now work for your scales. Right. There you go. All I want you to do is focus on I want you to concentrate on this box and this box. See, treat it like that. I've got this box and I've got this box. There you go. There you go. All right. There you go. So there's your pentatonics. All right, so we'll stop that for a second.
Okay.
But that gives you an idea. If you have a looper pedal, you can sort of pick your favorite riff. It can even be just like if you're low C, you can just chug, and just find something that you want to chug along with, and then try to find a way to start taking those scales and turn them into something musical.
Yeah.
But also, like we got the chord book earlier. Okay, so go in the chord book and look at your pentatonics. And what you'll see is what we're talking about here. Now, the way that the chord books are going to teach pentatonics is they're going to be in a box-like position. They're going to want your hand to be in a very fixed type of position. Okay? So if I'm starting a pentatonic where the root note is on the A string, see those shifts that I have to make? But I'm keeping everything. I might have to make a minor shift with my hand, but it's all right there. Right? So see, they're all pentatonics. It's just where the position's on the neck, the intervals are the same.
Yeah.
So see, if I'm going, so just learning those positions, and the most important thing is knowing where your root notes are. So the way that I play as a guitarist, I concentrate a lot on the root notes. So if I hear you play a C chord, whether it's low or heavy or what, if I hear that C and I can't distinguish if the sound of the chord is major or minor, then I'm always automatically going to assume pentatonics if it's what fits the song. Pentatonics have a nice universal appeal. So if I know C's here, or here, or here, or here, so there's C's everywhere. That's a C. 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 So once you understand where your C's are at, and let's just say in the key of C, then knowing the positions that go along with where the root notes are on the given strings, you can kind of play with it. So let's say that I don't know, I think for 1 second I go, all right, here's a C. I want to go for it. I want to go. Because I know that in the position of C, that my first step is always going to be 1.5 steps. No matter where I'm at on the neck, I know that I can go 1.5 steps from a C and I've got a pentatonic. Okay. So maybe the best way to learn it is to not think about starting from the position on the A string and trying to find your way up, which can be a little bit weird. Maybe consider learning the box position first in standard tuning so that you're kind of getting down the thought process of, you know, I know that from a pentatonic scale, it's always going to be the root note. Blah, blah, blah. It's always going to be 1.5 steps on that first go.
Okay.
So see, sometimes you can work it out by just looking at it on one string because it helps you understand the physical space that's between those notes in the scale. So see, if I'm in G and I go, sorry. By knowing that, by knowing the intervals between the notes in that scale, what it allows you to do is, okay, let's say that I want to hit a blues riff or a metal riff. I want to play a heavy, hard metal riff, and I want to start in the G note as my tonic and everything. Well, I know that I can always go. It's the same everywhere on the neck. That movement is the same because it's the same interval because it's pentatonic. Okay.
So knowing where the positions are of a certain note is definitely super important. Okay.
So let's compare it to, let's say, okay, now you're used to using this box where essentially in C you're going.
Yeah, like this.
Right. Right. You understand that. Right. Okay. All right. You're getting from one octave to the other at a minimum, and you're understanding the boxes and notes and the position shifts in between there. Okay. Well, the way you take that to the next level is you go, okay, well, I know that I went. Right. You know the next note in the scale. Right. Well, then what you do, all right, where else would that be? Here, right? You can take that and move it somewhere else on the neck. So if I know that, right, if I go, sorry. So there's the higher register, starting with the C that is on the upper end. So if you want to do another position shift, you can go. Now you're on the high C. So you've basically taken that pentatonic and went through 2 octaves, essentially. Okay. So try that. I mean, so where would be
where would be the next position then? If this is the first one.
All right.
Where would be the next one then?
The next position. Fourth string, 5th fret.
Okay.
Right, so that's your C, and obviously we're actually, I'm sorry. Oh, see, it's, yeah, one up. I'm sorry, we're in a different tune. Yeah, so start there, hammer on. Now remember what we said. You know that's a C. You know it's the tonic.
So I start, yeah.
All right, you know it's the tonic. So if you want, you can either hammer on with this finger or you can slide again, just like we did up there. And then you can reach up. What are you going to do from the tonic? You're going to grab 1.5 steps, right?
Okay.
Right. Then your next position, you can either use this finger to grab this note, or you can shift positions again if you want.
Okay.
And you're going to go, yep, here, yep, and then here, and then here and here. So
Okay.
it's gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Move this finger. Leave this one here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1,
Okay.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's getting you up through the next. There you go.
Something like that?
Sure.
I don't know what that was, but
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Happy mistakes are completely fine.
Yeah.
You will integrate that into your style of playing. Sometimes it depends on the hand positions you use. Force us to take on these habits depending on the way that you want your hands positions to work. So, you know, I'm not necessarily telling you the wrong or right thing. I'm just showing you a way that you can do it.
Right.
And all of these things are what we call phrasing. And phrasing can really come down to the way that you approach a note can make it sound a little bit different. So what if, and this is going out on a little bit of a limb, but for instance, what if I took a pentatonic and instead of just going, all right, that's cool, but what if, and now where phrasing comes into play is I'm getting to the same notes, but what do I do to get there? All right, what if I went, so see, it's still pentatonics, but I'm adding like some little half steps in there. I'm sliding in. So it's okay to make a little happy mistake as long as you wind up where you need to do, and as long as you're playing stuff that's somewhat like kind of in there.
Right.
And that's okay. It's all right to sort of experiment. So
yeah. Sort of dancing around it a little bit.
Yeah. So, and that's where a lot of blues playing and rock playing is really crucial. So if I go. Now, notice how, watch my hand movements, how I went all the way up through those all those different octaves by switching positions and sliding and keeping it somewhat box-like.
Okay.
So I'm not going all the way across all the strings in one place. Now, eventually you'll learn to do that, and that's cool, but that's going to require you to learn some kind of weird little hand shifts and to, you know, really make an effort to get your hands working the way they want. If you're concentrating on box shapes, that's a great way to... Use your pinky or your index to slide into that. You've got pretty big hands. I use the pinky because my hands are a little bit smaller and because I make a conscious effort to use my pinky more often because it builds pinky strength.
Right.
All right, so like what was I showing you earlier when I was playing around? I was going... Right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't get the pinky moving. So I integrate pinkies more into my pentatonics because then, as let's just say my skills develop, and I'm not going to claim to be able to do this well, but like earlier I was doing some of that silly riffing where I'm trying to play really fast and do silly things, then that allows me to get up into what we call the box on pentatonics. Then I can get into the... You know, I can get kind of silly, and for a metal guy, using that pinky is going to be real important. So, for me as a guitarist, it allows those positional shifts to really kind of, you know, watch this position shift that I make. So see, you can bend into a note. You don't have to slide into a note. You can bend. Like earlier, I noticed how when you were in the box shape, you were bending the tonic up one full step, and that's cool because you can bend the note up and then bend it back, and it gives it this sort of sound. So if I'm going, I can bend that. Remember, it's a step and a half.
Yeah.
So I can do the whole Tommy Iommi thing, you know, right? Like we were talking about War Pigs, where, and this is just an example of where he goes, to drive home the point that that bend was correct. Your ear was trying to find that bend, and you found some Tommy Iommi and you didn't realize it.
Tony.
Tommy, I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm bad with names.
Me too.
Anyway, so what he does is he does the...
Yeah.
Right? So when he's doing that, he's actually not bending all the way up to the G in that tune.
Yeah.
He's only bending this step, but it sounds great because he's resolving back to the tonic. So there is a music theory thing related to it. What I love in metal guitar is when you take those pentatonics and your ring finger is anchored on the tonic and you bend up to that next note from the tonic and come off. And it's and I'm just giving you some ideas for I'm not suggesting try to master this. Right. I'm just showing you why we think this way when it comes to pentatonics. So if I take a pentatonic where I'm in E, all right, and I want to bend up to this G, it's going to sound something kind of like or if I'm in this position, I want to bend up to this note. Anyway, so see, like getting those bends and getting those like big crazy stuff, controlling those bends is a hard thing too. And as you'll find that whether you're putting vibrato on a note, see how vocal that sounded? Yeah. But I'm controlling that note. I'm making it go where I want it to. That's, I think, where a lot of rookie guitarists start to go wrong is they, a lot of times when they're bending a note, they'll tend to want to pull it out of pitch more than just control the pitch that the note is in and just simply put vibrato on the note when they do it. Yeah. And you can hear it because it sounds, and I'm going to try to make a deliberately bad sound. It sounds something kind of like this. You'll hear like a... They'll want to bend it because they're thinking that it requires a lot of force when it's actually more of a finesse thing. That's one thing I was noticing, like with some of these notes that you're bending, it's cool to bend them, control the note. Make sure you have a plan. Like try to think, okay, I'm going to bend this note to here and I'm going to achieve that pitch, okay? Or if I'm going to put vibrato on a note, I don't want to go
go too crazy.
I want to anchor that note there nice and clean. And I just want to, I want to hear the note be in tune like a vocalist. It's a singing quality that you're achieving on the note. So those are just some little tips that maybe eventually down the road just to keep in your mind. But those pentatonics will help you, and of course the book that I gave you will give you some idea of various pentatonics. So let's go over that again. This isn't about me, this is about you, but I'm just trying to kind of help you out. You know? This is stuff that I was never told, guys. Like, you know, nobody ever told me this stuff. I sort of had to figure it out.
Yeah, I think like with the bends, I guess it's kind of a trial and error thing.
It is.
So it's like an experiment. You might bend it too far. It's like, oh, it doesn't sound
good. So see, that bend that you did there when you were in C is you're doing something that would be indicative of like a C minor. Okay, so if I take that bend that you just made and I go, that's C minor, which is cool. But you're discovering that you'll hear, okay, there's a minor chord. You can absolutely take that note and, you know, kind of go. See, and you're getting that. So you're right there in your mind, it's there. So that's totally fine. Always feel free to experiment with the bends.
Yeah, definitely. So this first scale we're working on, it's like, let me try a little more metal. Actually,
yeah, you're doing great. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Like that.
Another thing that you can sort of do if you want. Now here's a good idea. Let's use because you're metal guy, you like the thick hairy sound going on. You don't have much hair going on right now.
No, not anymore.
So look, let's use your low C as a pedal, as what we call pedal note. All right, I'm going to demonstrate that.
Okay.
If I take a say I take a all right, so I'm pedaling on the high string. This is sort of a somewhat advanced technique, but you're actually doing it and you don't realize it. So instead of working the scales, also drone on one string and work your way up through the pentatonics.
Like what you were just doing there?
Yes, but you're going to do it on the low register. You're going to use this as a pedal. So the way you do that, I want you to just follow my hands. Take your palm muting is good. You actually have really good palm muting techniques. Your pick techniques on the right hand are looking good. So look, take that, and I know I'm not in the same key you are, but look, go.
So second string.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna go.
Is that what you're doing?
Remember what we said from the tonic. What's always going to be your interval from the tonic in a pentatonic? It's always going to be 1.5 steps every single time, no matter where you're at on the neck. So it's always going to be.
So.
No. C. Right. But that's your tonic is C. So that's okay to hammer on into C.
Oh, gotcha. But from here I need to.
Yes. Yes. Right. Look, I want you to not think about it like, hey, I'm trying to play a song or whatever. Mm-hmm. I want you to just look. I'll demonstrate. I'll use the E string since my low is the E. So if I were doing what you were doing in C, it's going to do something kind of like this. I'm using the low string as a pedal.
Okay, I got you. They're hitting the top too. Okay.
But that's a pentatonic. I'm using the low string as a pedal, or I can use the high string as a pedal. Or another thing that guitarists will do, and this is getting kind of off on a different tangent, but you can also just have an open string as a pedal and hammer on. Yeah. It's all pentatonics, and it sounds crazy, but it's really just me going.
Yeah. Like old Sabbath.
And that's very metal. That's very metal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So work in that low pedal.
Yes.
And just look, riff it. You know, just. Yep. Done.
So, where's the next one? Got 12.
That's the next one.
Okay.
And then all the way up to C again. One full step up to C.
Up to where?
Yeah, and look. Yeah. See how that sounds?
Yeah.
It's awesome, isn't it? Yeah. Right. So once you understand where those intervals are, so see, I'm going to play this in standard position, but I'm going to use C because that was the key that you're in here. If I go, it's okay to practice that. Just practice. Don't worry about any of the other strings. Just get into the mode of understanding where those pentatonics are. So you got pentatonics.
Yeah.
So if you got a 1.5, a whole, a 1.5, a whole.
Yeah.
So just keep that in your mind.
Okay,
so
yeah,
if I know that the first interval is always going to be 1.5, a whole, a whole, a 1.5, a whole,
okay.
right? So it becomes math at that point.
Right. See, what's great about this, I can go back and watch this video now.
Yeah.
I learn how to play guitar.
Exactly. but you know, you can do the pedal way, you can learn the boxed position way, or you can learn shifting your hands. So for pentatonics, that, in my opinion, is kind of the best way to approach it. So go over if you want to learn the positions and work up your hand dexterity, that's going to help. Play along with a looper pedal of some sort, that's going to help as well. And then also playing with a metronome can help as well. So if you just want to set like a metronome to 4/4, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4, and just get into that thing. And look, even if, like I've got, you know, a beat going, even if I'm not going to play over any chord, right? If I just have metronome going and it's just
Yeah. Keep you honest.
See?
Yeah.
So see, you know, using a metronome forces you to get that right and left hand working together in unison.
Yeah.
And doing what you want it to do. And just, you know, and I know those particular pentatonics, I'm actually leaving a couple of notes sort of out, but that's a very boxy pentatonic shape. So the thing is, it's cool to learn scales and develop that into your playing to help you get to that next level. And I guess that's kind of where this video is going, guys. I know it's been kind of long, but I've just kind of taken y'all along in real time with John here so you can see where we're coming from. The thing is, mix the book knowledge and mix the practice with the metronome or with a looper pedal or anything you need to do to get yourself rhythmically thinking to play these scales. Do that, but also, in addition, integrate creativity into your playing. So maybe, you know, practice for an hour. Like, all right, we're just going to focus on technique for an hour where we're going to really make sure we have our hand positions right for these scales. We're going to really focus on that. We're not going to get a crunchy sound on the amp. We're not going to do this and that. We're just going to focus on, you know, the meat and potatoes. And then, okay, all right, I worked really hard. I went through some scales. For the next hour, I get to fool around and do some creative stuff with them. Right. So separating creative mode from, hey, I need to like understand what I'm doing, kind of like crawl, walk, run.
Right, and then the fooling around ends up being more fun because of the techniques that you learn.
You're learning the positions, you're learning the notes and where they go, and it allows you to really take on some of these just kind of fun things.
Right.
You know, if for instance, if I'm doing some low chunky thing in C and I want to do a hammer-on onto a C. Well, those hammer-ons sound so metal, right? Like, you know, the guy from Black Sabbath. I showed you that.
Right.
See, so you know it. You just have to work it out in your mind.
Right.
So, and that sounded like random, right? It's crazy sounding, but it's actually super, super, super rudimentary. It's not, what that guitar technique is not hard.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that makes guitar sound harder than it is, but it really isn't.
Right.
Which is good because guitar's a hard instrument to play, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. And that's what it's all about for me is, you know, the more, like, I don't understand where to go on the neck and all that kind of stuff, but I obviously know good music when I hear it. So as the better I get, the more I enjoy playing, and it feeds. And the more I enjoy it, the better I want to get. And it's just like this. Yeah. You know, it just kind of feeds into itself.
It's understanding the intervals. So like those intervals that I just played for that C run would be the same in any key. So let's say we did the run in D. Okay. Well, then that would sound, I'd go. That sounded like crap, but you get the point.
Right.
It all is relative to each other, and that's the beauty of guitar, is all of these things literally transpose. So all I have to know is one scale. All right, say that I want to know a G major scale instead of a pentatonic. Well, why was that a G major scale? It was G major because I started on G. As a guitarist, I have that luxury. Well, what about C major scale? Well, see, we've been doing pentatonic so long, my mind ain't even right. But that shape transposes literally to any part of the neck. So you really only have to learn a handful of scales to get by with the majority of the stuff you're going to be running into.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it.
Sort of starts unfolding as you learn more.
It does start unfolding. So learn majors, minors, pentatonics, maybe some kind of crazy diminished stuff. And then, you're getting into like crazy metal stuff. You can even get into like, then eventually you start understanding like these shifts and intervals where you're going. That's crazy sounding, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like some Slayer almost, yeah.
All right. So but to know those intervals and to make them work for you, you got to learn the basics first, and then you can start getting into crazy. I don't know, like it would be along the lines of like. No, because I understand the intervals that I'm playing there, I don't have to make much sense of it. I just know where I can move it around the neck.
Right.
I did not really even mean to do any of that, but I know because I'm playing diminished that I know that those intervals are very much that way. So, anyway, Zeke's over there sleeping. That's funny. We're putting him to sleep. But hopefully that points you in the right direction.
Right.
I mean, that gives you some food for thought.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks, man. It's awesome.
Is there anything else that you have questions about or anything? Or what else? Anything?
I think that's a great starting point, especially like pentatonics, because I love heavy metal and I do love blues, even though I can't play a lot of blues. One thing that attracted me, of course, to heavy metal is one thing, it's simple. You can have fun with it easier. Like good heavy metal guitar players, there's a misconception that it's easy to play heavy metal. Obviously, at the high levels, it's not.
No.
But at the lower levels, though, it is, because you can do stuff, especially if you have drop C or drop D tuning. Like that stuff is pretty easy. Once you get palm muting and some rhythm down, it's just fun. It feels good. Right, and then some of the greatest metal riffs of all time are like really simple.
Blues riffs.
Yeah, and it's just it's so much fun, and but being able to get into the pentatonics like how you explained it, I feel like it gives me a good starting point. I think anyone watching the video too that wants to get into any style of guitar playing, I feel like it's a great foot in the door kind of, because the guitar seems like one of those things where it's like it seems like a lot when you get past the like jamming a lot stage. It feels like a lot to get to the next level, but I think you get a foot in the door, it seems like it maybe starts to kind of unfold and unravel a little bit.
It's really not that bad. I mean, I think for a lot of people, it just comes down to you hear something in your head, you know that it's there, but you don't know how to make it. And that's the biggest point, is getting to the next level, I think, is having an understanding of the instrument to where when you hear something, you can play it.
Yeah.
If you're understanding, if you can't make heads or tails of, let's just say, if you can't make heads or tails of, like those chords are weird, right? But I mean, if it doesn't make sense, then why learn it, or why even try to use it if it's not going to benefit your playing?
Right.
If what you want to hear is, that sounds like crap, but you get the point.
Yeah.
So if that is your language, then learn the necessary tools to speak that language, and you're there. You're in the pocket. So, a lot of those metal guys, it's just straight up pentatonics, like just running it.
Yeah.
Up and down the neck. They know all of their positions really well, and they can get that pick moving and just really get some awesome stuff going on. So you'll get there. It just takes time. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, guys. I've never claimed to be an expert guitar player. This is just my perspective. I've been playing well over 20 years. I love it. I really do enjoy it. It's a big part of my life. And I do like sharing it with other people. So,
well, an expert is relative. We can all teach people things that if someone knows less than us, then we have something to teach them.
I agree. I mean, at one point somebody took time to show me something. So the least I can do is pass along things that were given to me for free to somebody else. So, guys, we really appreciate you watching today's video. John, I hope you learned something. I hope it was worth the trip to come down. We appreciate you coming and joining us today on our channel. I think we're going to do some stuff for Iraq veterans as well.
Yeah, that sounds great.
We'd love to have you on there. So, guys, expect more. We post every Monday and every Friday, and we graciously appreciate your support. We appreciate you watching. Let us know if you like this type of stuff. Maybe we can even just make this a regular thing where, you know, maybe John can take some of this stuff and woodshed with it for a few months, and then when you think you're ready for the next thing, then come back and we'll do this same type of format with John, or you know, and try to follow his progress. I'll be happy to do that if that's something you want to do. You just let me know.
Yeah.
And let me know if y'all want to see that. So yeah.
Yeah. And I do want to say, I'm not sure who built that guitar, but they did an amazing job on it. And you could tell whoever built it was probably really smart, just based on how they built it.
Really smart?
Yeah,
well, it wouldn't have been Chad, that's for sure.
No, it couldn't have been. No.
That's right. All right.
That is a sweet guitar, though.
Yeah, Telecaster. You know, it's funny. Like when we sat down, I felt like Ralph Maggiano from Crossroads, and like you're Steve Vai with the crazy guitar, and here I am with the Telecaster. You know,
that's right. Yeah.
You're riffing on this crazy stuff, and then I break out. You know, I break out. Yeah, whatever.
And I'm just over here like. That's impressive, but can you do this? Okay, you got me there. That was
Guys,
fun, man.
Thanks for watching. Appreciate you. We'll see you next time.